how to really go about change with acceptance. Welcome to the Hopefulist with me, Wendy McClure. This is where we turn those nasty, negative thoughts into positive and work toward a happy, fulfilled life. Now, let's get started. Hello. Thank you for joining me as always. And guys, guess what? So exciting. I have a brand new website. Please check it out, hopefulist.com, and let me know what you think. It's got all kinds of new pictures. It's got a new format, and I love it. I think it looks good. If you would like to give me any of your feedback, I would appreciate that. Because what I love doesn't mean that everybody loves it. So if there's something that you think can be a little bit better, just go ahead and let me know. For some reason, it looks much better on desktop than it does on mobile, which is annoying because most people are looking at stuff on their phone, correct? Yeah, of course. So we are having the most beautiful day today. And we haven't had great weather, so I am trying my best to go out and soak up some sun. I don't know, I would say maybe close to 70 degrees, maybe a little bit warmer than that in the sun. I started out with jeans and a sweatshirt. I'm now down to my cut-off shorts and a T-shirt. Depends on if you're in the sun or not. If you're in the sun, you're going to be hot. If you're in the shade, you're going to need that sweatshirt. So I'm running back and forth. I had to really, really talk myself into doing this podcast right now because I just want to sit outside in the sun and soak it up while we still can. It's like one of those gift days, right? You don't know how many more you're going to get before the really cool weather starts to come in. My local weather forecaster said this will probably be the warmest day until next May. That's what she said. This will probably be the warmest day until next May. And it's not lasting long because tomorrow we're taking a nosedive. That's right. Going to be in the 50s, maybe 60 tomorrow. So trying to enjoy it while I can. I did manage to talk myself into getting up off of my Adirondack chair and come on in here and get a little work done so that I can talk to y'all. So go check out the website. Let me know what you think, and I'm super excited to hear any kind of feedback that you may have. Quote of the day today. It's a long one, so listen up. Go to the spiritual gym every day. What is the spiritual gym, Wendy? I know, I'm having a hard time even saying it. Well, this is what you do to keep your frequency high, your faith strong, your mindset solid, and your tenacity unshakable. Tenacity, that's such an underutilized word, isn't it? Such a good one, too. Tenacity. She has tenacity. I like it. So here's how you do it. Read self-help books. Listen to music that's going to pump yourself up. Do you have like a playlist for when you work out? I have a specific playlist for when I work out. I have a playlist for just inspirational songs. These are things, simple things, that we can do to keep ourselves in the right mindset. You can write affirmations. You can read them aloud. You can meditate or listen to meditations. Something that I've recently learned about meditation, and I know I just talked about this not that long ago, is, and this just seemed so much of an easier explanation. We all seem to think that meditation is about not thinking about anything, about clearing our mind. This is all what we've been led to believe. That's not what meditation is. Meditation is about controlling your thoughts. You're not supposed to sit there for 5 to 10 minutes with absolutely nothing going through your mind because, first of all, that is impossible. And second of all, I don't really think that's going to do you much good. It's about directing your thoughts and controlling your thoughts. And when a thought comes in that you don't want to consider in that moment, you push that thought away and go back to what you want to focus on. And what you choose to focus on is completely and totally up to you. I think, as I've mentioned before, trying to get a little more successful in the business, oftentimes I will use two words. I breathe in one word that I want to bring into my life, and then I breathe out a word that I want to put out into the universe. So when it comes to my business, I breathe in the word wealth, because I would like some wealth. And then I breathe out the word service, because that's how I'm going to obtain the wealth, by providing service. When I was about to do a speech earlier this summer, and I was nervous for the couple of weeks leading up to it, I would breathe in calm. I wanted to bring calmness into me, into my body. And I breathed out inspiration, because that's what I wanted to do for the audience. Lately, I've been really upset about the state of the world that we are in. And I'll breathe in the word peace, because I want peace. And I'll breathe out the word kindness, because I would like to see more kindness in the world. And I will be more kind in the world. And hopefully that spreads. That's just a couple of examples of what you can do and focus on in a meditation. You can do whatever you want, but it is not about sitting there and having absolutely no thoughts. That is not the purpose. You should also journal to keep your frequency high. I know nobody likes to journal. I hear it all the time. I journal constantly. Now, granted, I have time. I know not everybody has the kind of time that I do, but I try to take great advantage of the time that I have. In fact, I journal and write so much anymore. I literally get writer's cramp, because I love pen to paper. Love pen to paper. Get that super cute notebook and your fabulous pen. You know, I do a gratitude journal. Then I write down the 10 goals that I'm working on each and every day to keep my motivation high and to keep that vision in my sight. I also try to do what is called morning pages. And that's supposed to be 3 pages every morning of just free writing, free journaling, just writing about whatever is on your mind. And the purpose of it is to clear out your mind both consciously and subconsciously, so you can go through the rest of your day without these little things niggling at you. Now, I don't often do the full 3 pages. I think that they want you to do 3 pages because it takes a while to get in there, to dig down deep, to really get to the root cause of something that's bothering you. There's so much just buried in our subconscious. All of these limiting beliefs that we've had since children. And it's hard to recognize them because they're just on autopilot. I've also heard it takes at least a half hour of journaling before you can start to get anything good, before you can start to actually take into account what really is going on in your brain. So, take that with a grain of salt. I always think a little bit of journaling is better than no journaling at all. And sometimes you just got to hang in there. A great thing about journaling is it just gives you time to self-reflect. And self-reflection is so important. I remember the times that I've been in therapy, I would spend the whole week thinking, okay, what do I want to talk about this week? What do I want to talk about this week? It always gave me that opportunity to examine what I felt was the things that were stopping me, making me feel bad, things that I was guilty about, thinking about what type of things were going on in my life that I wanted help with. And you can do that without a therapist. You can do that with journaling. So I'm still in the middle of the quote, but I've gone off on tangents. I don't want you to think this is the whole quote because it's not. But here's the rest of the quote. Put together some sort of spiritual practice that you will do every single solitary day to stay in shape, to keep your mind in shape. Even if it's just 15 minutes a day, this is critical to your success and the amount of improvement that you will see in your life. I mean, it's really just that simple. It's hard to get into the habit. I'm not going to lie to you. But once you're in the habit, it just becomes part of your regular schedule. It's what you do. It becomes part of who you are. Okay? You going to do a journal now? We'll see. We'll see. So the third part in my series, how to make real change in your life. We have already spoken about awareness, appreciation, and today we're going to talk about acceptance. And I found this great article that I wanted to share with you from the New York Times. That's right. I'm fancy. I read the New York Times. No, I actually just Googled it. But it's an article by Jenny Tates, a psychologist. And I'm going to read you that article because I find it to be kind of fascinating. So she says, as a psychologist, I often teach clients in my clinical practice the difference between pain and suffering. Remember, keep in mind, we're talking about acceptance here. Pain on its own can be difficult, but it's only when you don't accept it that it turns into suffering. Of course, more than a year into the COVID pandemic, there was a lot of pain and suffering, and that was understandable. But as a compassionate gesture to yourself, it may have been better off liberating to consider how you approach your own anguish and if there are ways you can ease it a bit. So they were using the pandemic as an example for the fact that it was never ending, right? That's how it felt. So after validating my clients' legitimate distress, I encourage them to deal with challenges by embracing something called radical acceptance. It is a component of the kind of treatment I practice. Behavioral therapy, which was developed by the psychologist Marsha Linehan. And many people know the term from the popular book, Radical Acceptance, by Tara Brach. Now, radical acceptance means recognizing your emotional or physical distress, whether it's around minor issues like traffic or more significant challenges such as navigating a chronic illness, and wholeheartedly practicing acceptance. Though it sounds counterintuitive, accepting negative circumstances can help you feel better. Life regularly and inevitably involves emotional stress, anger, fears around health, shame around failed relationships. But anything short of fully accepting our human experience will keep us caught in those emotions. One reason is that the habitual ways we deal with difficult situations, like pretending everything is fine, acting pleasant when feeling resentful, or even trying to acquiesce as a way to avoid truly feeling our emotions, are ultimately depleting, not restorative. And I find that this happens to be the most common practice. You know, the bury your head in the sand type thing. And I've done that most of my life. And I've come to find out that for the most part, that is not good. It usually backfires because then you start to build up this resentment, and one day you're just going to explode over something like a pepper shaker. It's a little bit of a private joke. Somebody out there knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, we can't bury our heads in the sand. We have to recognize when something is upsetting to us and causing us resentment. because it just is one of those cases where we often say, pick your battles. Pick your battles. This is not a big deal. But sometimes it's a little bit more than that. So try to recognize when something is kind of gnawing at you a little bit, because this is where radical acceptance comes in. In this case, the word means being all in rather than going halfway, which will feel phony to you and those around you. It's the difference between accepting you're anxious and avoiding, and being willing to feel anxious while approaching meaningful opportunities. What does that mean? Well, she goes on to say, many of my clients initially confuse accepting with resigning themselves to feeling bad, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Psychologically, acceptance is an active stance that actually promotes change by helping us manage our emotions so we can solve problems. For example, emotional eating can be a response to feeling bad about excess weight. But in fact, once you compassionately let go of berating yourself, it can be easier to make healthy food choices. You've heard me talk about this before. You will never shame your way to success. It does not happen. Now, one trick to approaching radical acceptance, according to Dr. Brock, is to keep the acronym RAIN in mind. RAIN stands for recognize and pause to notice, allow or accept your current experience, investigate by pinpointing what is happening in your mind and body, and then nurture by bringing compassion to yourself. RAIN. That's the acronym. By choosing acceptance in tense situations, you'll get into the habit of bringing mindfulness to moments in your life when you need it most. And as a bonus, studies have also shown that therapies incorporating acceptance reduce suicide, substance abuse, anxiety, chronic pain, and improve relationships and your well-being. If becoming a more accepting person feels like an extreme makeover of your personality, research suggests that low-effort self-help exercises can help you improve peace of mind and quality of life. So here are a couple of suggestions. Scan your mind for judgmental thoughts. To begin to bring more acceptance into your life rather than passively falling into negative thinking, notice thoughts like, why me? Very familiar with that one. Notice those thoughts that thwart your ability to cope. Asking why me is not a solution to the problem. Then come back to seeing the present as it is and not as you think it should be. I got a flat tire on the way to work. I shouldn't have to stop and worry about getting a tire change before I even get to work. That's what you think it should be like. Now we're going to talk about how this is just something we're going to have to do today. Because when you're lost in thoughts about life being unfair or terrible, even if it is, it's impossible to be effective. That's what we're talking about with acceptance. We're not saying that life doesn't suck sometimes. It absolutely for sure does. But it's not going to help you to become a successful, happy person. For instance, if your child is up hours after bedtime, you may tell yourself, I can't take this. But instead of falling into an emotional spiral, try to recognize what is actually true, such as, I'm exhausted and crave some time for myself. Besides easing your frustrations with your child, which will be much more conducive to setting the mood for them to sleep, thinking factually offers more perspective. Like when I said I couldn't take it anymore. I just said this not that long ago. Can't take this 5 days of nonstop wind-driven rain. Well, of course I could take it. I had to take it. I had no choice. So I reminded myself of things that I was grateful for in that situation, as things like my house, the fact that I didn't have to leave my house and go out in it, the fact that I had enough food to take care of myself, stuff like that. Example number 2, honor your emotions. While acceptance will help you feel better, know that it isn't a way to escape your feelings. No putting your head in the sand. Emotions communicate information to us and can motivate useful actions when based on realities rather than the stories our minds churn, right? How many stories do we tell ourselves every day that aren't true, that haven't happened, and that aren't going to happen? This is why it's important to allow yourself to experience what you're feeling. Experiment with accepting your emotions and utilizing them to inspire you. If you're feeling lonely, rather than passively scrolling on social media and thinking you're never going to have a relationship as amazing as your friends' posts suggest they have, honor your sadness as a sign that you are indeed a social being. Let it propel you to reach out. And just as important, ease your pain in that moment. You know, there's so much power in the fact when you can just accept the fact that you are where you are, and then you can go on to see what you can do about it. But if we just pretend that we don't feel lonely in the beginning, in the first place, then we're not going to try and figure out how to ease that. Right? Suppressing them, suppressing your emotions often backfires. So keep that in mind. Example number 3, release the tension in your face. One simple way to amplify acceptance in situations where you want to feel more accepting is to bring attention to your face. Now, many experts say that along with your thoughts and approach to your emotions, your expression influences how you feel. According to something known as the facial feedback hypothesis, the faces we make impact our emotions, which is why she teaches clients who yearn to be more accepting how to go from a scowl to a half smile. A half smile. So in moments when you want to improve your ability to accept what is rather than raging against it, try adopting a more relaxed, serene facial expression. If you're frustrated while waiting in a long line, just try a half smile. Just ever so slightly raise your lips, which automatically releases tension in your forehead and jaw to ease your resentment. Not to be confused with forcing a smile for others. This half smile is for you and you alone. Also, act willingly. True acceptance also extends to your behavior. Dr. Lynham teaches that in any moment you can either choose willfulness by refusing to tolerate something or needing to be in control of it, or opt for willingness. This is willfulness as opposed to willingness. Willingness is behaving as if you're saying yes to participating in reality. I love that. Participating in reality. I'm going to write that down. Participating in reality. By behaving as if you're saying yes to that specific reality. Now, life is full of activities we dread. Doing yet another Zoom meeting, getting the laundry done, doing the dishes. Choosing to do so with pep can feel nicer than dragging your feet. So during your next video call, turn on your camera, close all distracting browsers, and see how that compares to attending in a grudging way, right? Bring the joy. Just do the half smile. It might actually help. And finally, know that defaulting to fight or flight reactions, completely normal. It's unrealistic to think that you'll decide to radically accept and immediately find enduring bliss. It's not going to happen. So when you do find yourself thinking judgmentally, tensing up, or holding back from ultimately helpful actions, you can notice it and try turning the mind back to accepting. It's what I always say. It's a practice. So do not blame yourself for when you fall back into habits that you have had for literally your entire life. Acceptance is not a one-time choice. You have endless opportunities. At any moment, you can choose to find more freedom. So there you go. How awesome was that? I loved all of that. So I hope that you enjoyed today's part 3 of the series, Learning How to Make Real Change in Your Life with Acceptance. Can you please do me a favor and leave me a review? This is something that really helps to get the podcast out to more people. So if you could just take a moment to do that, I would be forever grateful. Don't forget, check out my website. I'm very excited for you to see that. So thank you for joining me. Now go on out there and be badass. You know I'm here cheering you on. Thank you for listening to The Hopefulist. Now, don't you feel good? Make sure you come back next week. See you then.